was 20 years ago, the second week of January 1987, when the El Paso Community Foundation was in the middle of its public campaign to raise money for the purchase of the Plaza Theater. The foundation had already made a down payment of $100,000, but needed to raise an additional $1 million to rescue the theater from a plan that would have turned this theater into a parking lot. It was at that time the El Paso Community Foundation was in the process of receiving small and large gifts from over 15,000 different people. In some instances, these contributions came in $5 amounts. And in some instances, the contributions came in large jars of pennies, nickels, and quarters from El Paso classrooms. One couple sent $5 every month for 17 years, but unfortunately died before the theater reopened. It was March 17th, 2006, exactly 1 year ago today, that the restored Plaza Theater reopened for the first time in almost 30 years. During this past year, the foundation is extraordinarily proud to have presented momentous performances by Randy Travis, Tony Bennett, and Rita Moreno. Today, the foundation is equally proud to bring you Written in Sand, a dramatic interpretation of the poetry of one of El Paso's finest poets, Margaret de Wetter. It was the summer of 2006 when Margaret de Wetter and veteran actress Jayne Adame, along with the award-winning playwright Marty Martin, were inspired to collaborate on the creation of a theatrical presentation of Marty's life as portrayed in her 3 published volumes of poetry. Their unanimous choice for directing this production was El Paso's one and only Mimi Gladstein. As you will see, this universal portrait of Marty's life is also an inspirational and touching portrait of all of our lives, as well as the life of our great country. We hope you enjoy this very special performance.
I belong to another time when rhyme and meter mattered, when tables glowed with candlelight and children never chattered, when ladies went to tea in hats with veils across their faces, and conversation, well, conversation was an art embellished by the graces. Step softly, love, between the stacks of catalogued and numbered racks. Here, the dust from unread books catches the errant light and looks like golden motes of ancient sand adrift from fabled Samarkand. A faded rainbow, buckram bound, houses the poets, profane, profound, and nestles next to Toynbee's grey cloth volumes, which predict decay and dissolution. But history on shelves provides tranquility, and readers entering their shrine appreciate the simple sign, quiet. I'm dazzled by the raindrops on the window pane. They catch the momentary sun and form 1,000 rainbows. An epiphany that demonstrates how much resides in one small beam of light. It seems a miracle to me that light fragmented so gains beauty never seen when it was whole. Now, I will search life's shards, peer at its tattered shreds with rainbow eyes. My genes, like yours, hold fragments of 1,000 loves, a mixture rich as history but spiced with lust. Look at those rugged men who forged America. They left their mark, but I prefer to think about their ladies. Seemly hair pulled straight, standing tall, as ladies should, with star-stitched gingham quilts and chipped white porcelain. They braved the trail and crossed the prairies to sod huts, chilled by the unrelenting wind. Some would cough away their blood, and some would die in giving birth on twisted homespun sheets. Some would know the grief of shallow graves too often dug along the way. The red earth covers more than bones. Yes, my genes, like yours, hold fragments of 1,000 loves, but rich in history. "1849 A.D. She stands, a Saxon silhouette, a woman stirring coals against the night. Her flaxen hair the only legacy she'll leave her child. Traded for gold, her 16 years have clothed her bones in womanhood and forged her woman's will. 1649 A.D. She never meant to go to sea, this fair-skinned Puritan who listens to the creaking of the boards above her head. Dank and dark, this crowded hold will shelter her until, with child, she disembarks on that far, unknown shore. 1849 A.D. Her bonnet blows away in desert wind, exposing her pale skin. The wagon train creeps on through days so hot the oxen soon will die. But in a rough-hewn hut she'll raise her son and scoff at drifting sand that leaves her numb. She sings the cradle song I hear. I hear her lullaby when I'm afraid. Its ancient rhythm draws me back and telescopes the years. My grandmother had a lady's hand for pouring tea and wearing rings, for writing notes like a spider's web with fine, sure lines. None devised behind the grace, the tempered steel, the steady pace, the lively mind that ruled us all with a lady's hand. Do you care for lemon? New dresses hugged our hidden hips that never shook or wiggled, while brilliant color rouged our lips beneath tight curls that jiggled. We sauntered to a vanishing tea, seamed straight, festooned with pearls, a proper group of pedigree, young ladies grown from girls. Devout and pious Marilyn employed a rigid scale to judge who did or did not sin. Her list of friends grew frail. Ruth gestured with a cigarette and coughed. Is your blood blue? Her face a mask of bored regret, a teenaged parvenu. Slim Jennifer could synchronize her smile and southern drawl. She used them both as a disguise, for she was 6 feet tall. Elise preferred a Ph.D., an interest we deemed funny, for she had wit and joie d'esprit, as well as all that money. We sipped Darjeeling from a cup and brushed away a crumb, unmindful that tea time was up and we residuum. fang and claw. Deny the weaponry of gun and knife. We hone our words to cut and maim. For life retains its poison lodged alike within each of us who hold old venom within reach. I've heard its rhythm rise in a wailing chant when torches flame to light a demagogue's rant. I've watched it coil and strike against a child, an angry shouted curse, a rapier file so sharp it cuts the tender skin. I've felt the lash of truth that wounds and leaves a welt. At times, I've met a woman, bitter rich, whose tawdry malice taints her day. A witch, I say, and then look within, astonished to find a mirror image of her sin. Miss Fanny, long since her hair a henna'd white became uncompassed, free as flight. Through wisps she searched each callow face with certain, knowing, pale blue eyes that judged us all as old and wise. Her desk of schoolroom damaged oak she called a stage, and by a stroke formed Shakespeare's globe beside the Thames. His players, wooden spools, unthreaded, like sweet Ophelia, unwedded. Macbeth, cracked as his blemished life, diminished by his outsized wife. And Lear was ever a spool so mad, or dying Dane, flung down at last. Such shadows no live actor cast. The sky grew drab when April came to the Rio Grande, yet yellow words with daffodils bloomed bright beside Burns Heather as we explored the glens together. Fay she grew, and so much older. The years flew by. I never told her the dazzling worlds she'd brought alive, the enchanted worlds I'd never seen when I was only 17. I watch him, this lord of panoply, as he descends the marble stairs, trailing seconds in his train and smiling. With unhurried steps he comes, twirling his scepter, sparking off a day or two as though the golden minutes count for naught. A tall deceiver he, and yet, like any bit of dense uranium, he has his quotient set. With every turn, he ticks, though he pretends to wear a cloak of sweet infinity, the fabric woven. The loom, God alone designed the frame on which his random thread once spun an ape, now firmly dead, a killer with a sharpened rock who gave the other beasts a shock when he descended from the tree to sire his simian family. The first cartoon, though unrefined, portrayed the struggle to survive, to keep the sheep or crop alive, to slay the hostile roving band, so as to protect the sacred land on which prehistoric bison fall forever on a cavern wall. The twisted warp, known as man's mind, observed and measured stars by night before conceiving wings for flight. It tuned the music for the lyre and toasted bread upon the fire. It watched the first towns organize, and from them countries synthesize. The woof's rare colors then combined Venetian glass with French chateaux, pale pyramids with cameos, Rembrandt's oils, a Chinese screen, the halo of the Nazarene. Rhythmically to flute and horn, the tapestry called man was born. Once, living shells held sway beneath the nutrient sea in a world where cephalopods were genealogy. When they became quite bold, they crept reptilian free and bred beneath the moon without apology. The brontosaurs then trod the fertile plains with glee, completely unaware they'd reached their apogee. No act of theirs destroyed the earth, where by decree man rules, unlocking genes and molecules. Fini. Legacy. The sins of the father. Which father shall we claim? Abel in his innocence, or Cain? I search within my roots and find the tramp of guilty boots, the killing fields of Vietnam, or contemplate with sutured calm the malice just beneath my skin, nurtured by my next of kin, a gentle soul, all unknowing that my prejudice kept growing. Linked within the prophet's chain, my legacy remains profane. Generations. South Carolina, 1865. He'd been so young then, his surgeon's hands untried. Now at dusk, she watched him ride across the field toward home. By fading light, she recognized his worn gray uniform of failure, his soft-brimmed hat, his gun slung carelessly across his horse. Her pride kept her erect, unbent. But who remained to work this scarred red Carolina earth? The slaves? Bewildered they as she. Margaret, he called. And through the stillness of the woods, she heard it echo as the dust rose up in angry puffs. Tennessee, 1895. On porch swing nights, to cricket chirp, her gentle voice recalled the sunbonnet days that she a child had known. Yet she sang of grief, a borrowed grief, that roamed a primitive song, and its rhythm beat in her tender heart with a plaintive chant of its own. Los Angeles, California, 1992. The orange glow profaned the city. Ain't no pity, ain't no pity. Sirens, devoured by the night, disappeared in sulphurous light that swallowed them in its great maw. Magnolia born, she never saw the flames. Yet the subtle guilt that grew within her heart was all she knew. Though safe behind the barricade of palm-lined streets, she was afraid. This land provides a lexicon of saints. An edited edition, unpublicized, of those whose lives lie unacknowledged. Some wore the calico of pioneers, some chopped cotton in the fields, some sang freedom songs, but all, anonymous and unremarked, nameless and unknown, gave absolution to America. Inside the church, where candles glow in ranks, light flickers like man's faith, then flares. So long as tallow lasts, so long will it stave off that hollow void wherein men peer and sometimes disappear. Between two, what have you? an episode of lovers. An eon in an afternoon distilled by subtle touch and soft words shared. The magnetizing of the eyes. No further scene but one, yet that self-demise is what the wise call love. Honeymoon at Holy Ghost Canyon, 1943. We were so tender then, too young to know that pine scent cannot last, that the mountain streams run dry, and even blue jays die. The snow melt from highest peaks trickled by like dreams. It passed too quickly by. Beneath our breath, we hummed love songs and counted on starshine to overcome the present threat of death. War left us quite alone. We heard no whine of distant bombers, but listened to the wind bring the desert near, the scent of rain on sand and sage, pinon and tamarind. Our very innocence protected us from pain. Unmindful of the beach to come at Normandy, we built a thistle wall of immortality. Roaming the world, we lost Tuesday one year. Somewhere, cloud-covered, we heard it disappear in the hum of the engine. Aboard Cathay Air, we drifted to Hong Kong and ornate shrines, where incense from joss sticks curled blue and burned before Buddha. At a Singapore temple, we learned how young Hindu priests, in penance and praise, seek Krishna's guidance to lighten their days. From dazzling Thai Watts to mosques in Riyadh, minus Tuesday, we found other faces of God. Careless of Coventry, to build a cathedral with spire aglow in the evening sun. But Renaissance masons never envisioned the steeple as target. They never imagined the droning of bombers, the alien bombers, the firestorm raging that bitter November, leaving charred ruins to profane the cross. Dresden became, in one unexplained moment, a city remembered in sepia scrapbooks for graceful low bridges, Renaissance churches for strolling to market, One night of bombing savaged the town square, muted the opera, silenced the waltzes and coffee house whispers, leaving an echo of that other loss. If it had been, if you had died at Thermopylae, where would they be? Those Greeks whose culture wove the fabric of the world. Where would they be, those children who died with you, encased before their embryos were formed? If it had been you dead at Malmedy, the snow blood red, where would the children of your loins be now? Dreams? Phantoms? Or if you had died in Vietnam, where would they be? The unborn young. Like empty vessels, their mothers waited for the seed, the sperm of heroes. Or if you had died a New York fireman, too young to procreate, where would they be? Your progeny. They will not bring your courage to the world. Could have sworn the sandstorm arrived on Walkabout. Its crunch as clear as crunch on gravel. Wet and wily through the night, it bleached the ghost gums and then trod against the weathered face of God. It has no eye, no central calm emerging from its heart, no respite. Yet it bequeaths a gritty solace, sheathing frayed nerves, encasing them in armor, blasted, burnished, buffed. Falling, the asteroid scatters its sparks to pierce the night like perforations in the cosmic piano roll. What unimagined songs it sings as atoms burn. Their black debris, the arpeggios between stars. Seasons end. As we garden together, you and I, the wind of October wields its knife. Summer was yesterday. The dragonfly completes his journey, but clings to life by buzzing the poppies plowed by your hoe. We gather brown boughs, a relic bouquet, which in time will become the embryo of future profusion, a resume of what once grew beneath the sun when you, the garden and I, were one. I hear no echo of my love as gray I gaze. I see no sport in yellow dawn, nor life beyond the lost. Quiescent now, the years will creep as gray I gaze. Petrograd, 1917. Silent, she watched the sunrise stain her tainted ash-gray city. A fragile view, a pastel wall, the golden spire of St. Peter and St. Paul. Today the tramp of surly boots replaced the salon sounds, the bubbling of the samovar, the champagne toast, the caviar. The wind wailed from the frozen marsh as it replaced her crystal past and left her with the patient dead, the bleaching bones, the sky turned red. Marie Antoinette, 1793. In the tumbrel which carried her to meet Madame la Guillotine, she sat erect, her eyes ahead, her bound arms taut behind her back. Yet when the cruel moment came, this frivolous girl, imperious queen, unblemished at her final fete, put on her dignity as crown. House arrest. A beautiful cage, this house and garden. Neither bear nor ocelot stalks boredom down by rhythmic pace, nor lusting lion forgets its urgent chase. But I, who love this place, weave my own chain, a captive bound by grace. What now? Your death that has disabled me leaves pale and faded hues reflected on my canvas. Ruefully, I see the linen primed in bone-white lead and think of Leonardo's use of red. With it, He lured his lady's transient smile, for Mona Lisa lives but to beguile. Her sienna hair showed shadows in her hair that predict that she will always be as fair as Empress Theodora. That face, formed by 10,000 tiles wedged into place, remains aloof, superior to time. Ravenna's sea-soft winds make church bells chime. Their tolling fills me with unworthy dread. So shall I paint? Now you are dead? I listen to those words you once said. It's life I choose, like Leonardo's red. Beneath the sharp gray edge of wing lies Greece. Its fields the autumn brown that Ceres left. Its cities marble rimmed in white and fringed with pines. I press my face against the cold black pane, but see no gods or goddesses, no satyrs, nymphs, or Dionysian rites. The Stygian hills are dark with ancient grief, despite Diana's moon that lights this night. It seemed to me, when on a summer day I climbed the rough and winding Patmos road, that no mere trumpet call will wake the dead on that far judgment day, but one small donkey braying on this chalk-white hill, alive and glad. Viewing a Guatemalan dig, you comfort me. What has been, is, will be. Your ruined walls that shelter dreams now form a ladder to future lives. A ladder from this present desolation. All this I see. Interstate 10, mention Maelstrom. Recognize its course, for there in its vortex you will find me. Whirled and furled and frisked and whisked, a survivor of the freeway, jettisoned, tossed. Beyond the fringes on the flatlands, where Mount Riley turns to canyons, wild coyotes feed and hawks that soar at sunrise still survey the pristine desert. There, uncaged, I'll roam and linger. Sift the sand from the arroyo breathe verbena scented air, splashed by sun and cooled by shadow. I'll find refuge from the whirlwind in my tranquil lair. We all build castles in the sand with towers to proclaim our birth and great halls measuring our worth. We each dig moats meant to surround as barricades, moats that compound our isolation, but if we choose to let the drawbridge down, refuse seclusion, we accept the world on loan with possibilities unknown. This century, much like my life, has had its passages of loss and restoration. By lamplight, it is easy to recall those days we basked in sun and children laughed. Those seashell days of spade and pail. Parties too, party nights. The gathering of the generations come to share a hearth. I've memorized those smiling faces now till they become mere symbols. Places too, whose every well-loved wall has yielded, been pulled down, destroyed. Those faded sepia pictures from the past can never summarize the grace that's gone. It's time to close the book. Move on. We must not grow too fond of morning when the sun is bright, too fond of winter when the ground is white, too fond of Chopin's fluid notes, too fond of mountains or of whiskered mountain goats. And in the end, we must not grow too fond of living. A portico. This fragile earth is meant to be a prelude to eternity. Heedless of time, heedless of circumstance, the grains of time sift by. Some edged in gray, some black, some opalescent as the sky. No poem of mine can call them back, but turn the glass, and chance will harvest grains arrayed in whispers of the past, like beaches where the children played and other things that last.